the person that met your checklist really didn't meet the essential needs that you needed in a marriage and a relationship, and you got options, right? Those options include you can date the father or the son or the mama or the daughter, right? And then people looking good on paper, but then in person they're actually crazy and narcissistic. The reality of it is you should look at a relationship like a business, okay?
What up, gents? It's your boy Sean C. Welcome to the Simsational Gent, and today we're going to go over a video that I found of a grown woman that is giving advice to women in their 40s about making better dating and relationship choices. Not all men are going to be able to leave out of the country to find women that they can date and have relationships with. Therefore, we have to find equitable outcomes for both men and women. Now, there are several points that she makes in this video that I slightly disagree with, but overall, I think she makes great points that both men and women of all ages can learn from. With that being said, let's get started.
I want to talk about the challenges of dating when you're in your 40s. Now, if you're anything like the typical 40-year-old who has gone through midlife crisis or whatever your situation is, or you figured out the person that met your checklist really didn't meet the essential needs that you needed in a marriage and a relationship, now you're in your 40s and you finally found yourself, or you're learning to find yourself and you're loving yourself. Now we need to dig deep and figure out what didn't work in our past in order to make a better decision about today. There's many of us in our 40s who we're content where we are. We're not rushing to get in a relationship. You have high-class women who, you know, they're used to being in a job where they're constantly busy. And so they prefer the man that is not in the house. You know, we meet up and what have you and do our thing and then go about your business. And you have those who actually do want a relationship and they're searching for Mr. Right because they're tired of going through dating apps and getting fake people and being catfished, and then people looking good on paper, but then in person they're actually crazy and narcissistic. So what are the questions that we should be asking? Well, I think it's very important, first of all, before you go looking to get in a relationship with somebody else, take this time to actually evaluate yourself. Worry about loving yourself first. Figure out what your challenges, your weaknesses are, and what are your strengths. What are you bringing to the table if you are bringing something to the table? And then if you know your challenges and weakness or whatever, then you can then look at somebody else and say, okay, how can we join together and benefit one another? The reality of it is you should look at a relationship like a business. In my mind, sex will fade. You will, there's still old people getting it down, you know what I'm saying? But that kind of gets old over time. You got to have something else that's more valuable, that's going to keep you there. Your mentality, how you think about life, what your spiritual beliefs are, child raising philosophies, you know, what you think about politics, life in general, it makes a big difference in your relationship. And so we cut the chase and we don't end up being friends before being romantic partners. And I think that's where the problem lies. People are not friends. So you end up sleeping with somebody, having a baby with them, and don't even know them. They're not even your friend. You don't even like them. You wake up and you get irritated. And so this time around in our 40s, make better decisions by asking pertinent questions about why did your last relationship didn't work? You know, what did you learn from that? And if they're pointing a finger at the other person and didn't do self-evaluation, that's a red flag.
She talks about men not living up to the checklist that some women make. Now, you all remember the Steve Harvey clip with the woman with the unrealistic expectations, right?
Heather bought me her list of requirements, so let's check them out.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
We come back to this point in the video where she is talking about unrealistic expectations of women. Women looking for Mr. Right, that the men need to look good on paper. She says that some of these men end up being crazy and narcissistic. Has this woman not seen what men see every day? Men are tired of seeing women degrade themselves while they're younger, and then once they get older, now they found standards. You know, I think there's a saying that you can't turn a into a housewife. Now, on one point that I agree with her, we talk about improving self on this channel. Both men and women need to look at their past relationships and evaluate them, figure out what's going wrong so they can make better decisions on their partners in the future. People have to make better choices in these relationships without letting the past hurts affect them in their future choices. That only leads to pushing people away that are meant for you and bringing back on people that aren't meant for you. She talked about older women not rushing to get into relationships and that they're finding themselves. No shit, we're all finding ourselves. On a daily basis, you should be finding yourself. Here is a truth that women today don't want to hear. Now, most men want to enjoy the youth of a woman, her vitality. He will date women that are younger than him because women that are younger have more respect for that older guy, even if that age gap is only by a couple of years. Now, older women are a little bit more set in their ways and they're less apt to be cooperative and let her man lead. High-class women by men today aren't seen as cooperative and or friendly. And sure, they could have hookup relationships, but men aren't going to look at them as wife material because of those qualities I just stated. Unless the man is a high-value man, shout out to Kevin Samuel, then a high-class woman typically won't date below her station. Kevin Samuels and others in the manosphere always ask women, what do you bring to the table? And listen, it's a fair question. It's really fair. Matter of fact, when women are presented with this question, modern women can't typically answer with a certainty. But this is only a fair question for those men that are out there handling their business, empire building, working on themselves, and operating in their purpose. Let me say something. If you aren't handling your biz, then you shouldn't be asking women that question. Go and work on yourself first. Y'all making real men look bad. Now, women need to be able to bring something to the table other than... Now, she says that women should treat a relationship like a business. Now, in some respects, I do agree with this. However, then why do women get bent out of shape when men ask for prenups? Women may not treat relationships like businesses, but they for damn sure treat them like investments. Now, relations in a marriage fade over time. It's going to happen because we get old, we get used to the person that we're with. A lot of women lose interest and they get frustrated with the men that they chose to be with. Now, what happens? They start to cut back or withhold relations altogether. Women today expect men to be completely, utterly monogamous. However, they will also expect their men to continue to deal with relationless marriage. Get out of here, man. Now, I totally agree with finding someone that is your best friend. That way, when things do start to sizzle down and the fire starts to quell a little bit, at least you can stand to be around that person. Those relationships survive because of the love of each other and the enjoyment of being in each other's lives. It's not a burden to have them in your life. And overall, I agree with her when she says that we all need to make better decisions. We should be asking our love interests questions about themselves and what they've been through. And more importantly, the lessons that they've learned from coming out of it. If you find that the person that you're going after is still blaming the other person without reflecting and talking about what their part in it is or what they've learned, then they haven't really done a self-evaluation. And they're most likely going to do the same thing if given the opportunity with you. Men today are just tired of modern women, and there are several reasons for this. Watch this video right here and find out what some of those reasons are. You won't regret it.